Brothers and sisters, this is my portrait drawing of John Bernthal, also known as Shane Walsh, who played that character on AMC's The Walking Dead for 2 seasons. Hope everyone enjoys it. The Walking Dead, Issue 8. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as per usual, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the exciting and grisly tale of The Walking Dead. The last issue ended with Lori, Rick's wife, kind of dropping a bomb on him and saying, "Oh, by the way, Rick, I'm pregnant." And with the soap opera-like escapades of the last, month or so, finding out in this past issue that Lori, in fact, had slept recently with the now deceased Shane. We're kind of left to wonder whose baby is it, and the One Life to Live General Hospital daytime soap opera begins. But this picks up right where it left off, and Lori is obviously she's kind of upset about it. And the main concern too is, obviously Rick's probably freaking out, and he says that he is almost immediately to some of the other survivors that are in the camp with them. He says to Lori, "Are you sure?" And she says, "Yes, I am. I know what the feeling's like, and blah blah blah." So then they kind of come back to the camp, and where everybody's sitting outside the RV, and everybody's like, "Is everything okay?" And Rick's like, "Yeah, we're having a baby," and he's trying to be upbeat and positive about it. And Alan, Donna's wife, is just kind of like, "Ugh, like that's terrible news." And Rick is trying to think about the positive and put a positive spin on it. Him and Dale have a brief exchange, and Dale says, "Rick, what about with Shane? Do you think this and that?" And Rick's like, "Just shut your goddamn mouth, okay? Don't think that that hasn't crossed my mind. It's not eating away at me. But here's the thing, we have bigger things to worry about right now. I can't let something like that destroy us." And of course, Lori's upset because she's not going to be able to have pain medication or regular checkups or anything like that. And the world is basically ended. So who the hell's going to deliver the baby, right? So there's a lot of things to be concerned about. Dale, though, in kind of a touching moment, he's the older gentleman that has the RV, and he kind of just goes and stops and hugs Rick, and he says, "It's all right, buddy. Don't worry about it. Don't fall apart now. You wound up coming back to us and making it through all you did, kind of coming back from the dead. This isn't going to defeat you, And he just kind of gives him a hug and says, "Congratulations." So they kind of, they pack up, they get back, they go to sleep for the night. Next day, they're driving along, and they come across a, what could have been a nice, I don't know if it was a nice house, like a ranch or something like that, but it looks like it's been burned down, or the barn next door has been burned down, and it's been looted and ransacked. And now remember, too, they're looking for a place that's not only, secure, that they can defend against the Walking Dead, the zombies, but also, it's cold. It's wintertime. They estimate to be about 15, 20 miles out of Atlanta now. And they wind up having to stop then later on and get out of... So they said they pack up, they kind of just move on. Obviously, it's not a place to stay. They have to stop and get a car out of the way again. And Dale almost shits his pants because he falls down, just when he sees this zombie, and it's frozen. And everybody comes up thinking there's something wrong, but the real lesson that we learn here is that because these things don't have blood pumping through their veins, they can actually freeze. Now, when Rick and everybody kind of approaches it a little bit, Glenn actually gets close to the thing, and it kind of moves, and and he falls on his ass too. Everybody kind of gets a chuckle. Rick hatchets it right in the head. But what we learn is that these things can freeze, so the cold can slow them down. So that's definitely a good, valuable lesson learned. Everyone does, when they clear everything, they do get back in the RV and and continue their search for someplace safe. They're starting to run low on food. They wind up coming upon a gated community with and the gate is still closed, and it's called Wiltshire Estates. They decide, hey, this is as good a place as any. It's going to be dark in a couple hours. Let's go check it out. So they split up into groups once they get in there and start checking the first few houses and don't really see anything. Rick basically says to them, "All right, listen, it's starting to get later now. This house here will be okay. We might actually be able to fortify and stay in this place, but let's all stay together tonight. It'll be better sleeping here than in the RV. The windows upstairs are not broken, so hopefully there'll be some decent warmth. They're probably actually beds, being a house, right? It's in the suburbs." So him and Tyrese go in there, though, and go to clear it out first to make sure everything's okay. Tyrese goes upstairs. Rick goes and says, "Oh, geez, this place has a basement. I didn't even realize." And goes and opens the basement door and is greeted by two zombies. One of them is just must have been a big, large man, because this thing looks like it's about 300 pounds. Rick's struggling. The things grab him, or he tries to hit the hatchet on one of them. Boom! He falls down the stairs. The rest of the way into the basement, he's calling out for help. Glenn and Dale come. Dale can't get a shot off with his gun without risking hitting Rick, because these things are on him, about to bite him. And then all of a sudden, come barreling down the down the stairs is Tyrese, and Tyrese just boom, hits one of these things, knocks him off. Him and Rick just both beat these fuckers to death, with their hammer and their hatchet, their signature hand-to-hand weapons. And afterwards, we learn a little bit about Tyrese, because Rick's like, "Whew, thanks for the save, man. That tackle came out of nowhere, man. Where'd you learn to do that?" He says, "Well, in the NFL." He goes, "Oh, really?" And Tyrese tells him he was a pro player for a couple of years, and how you always hear about people that, even the lowest paid player makes at least a couple $100,000 a year. He was kind of in that tier, but he kept pushing himself, and eventually got injured, which led to him exiting from his NFL career. And then I guess before the shit hit the fan, I guess he'd been a car salesman for something like that for a few years. So just kind of a little backstory on them. Later on that night, though, now, of course, the house is clear. They agree that they're going to take the bodies and burn them, the next day, when they're going to clear some other houses as well. Everybody decides to sleep upstairs. There's 4 bedrooms and a bathroom, and everybody kind of splits up. Donna and Alan and her kids split up, and Carol decides to go with her daughter Sophia and Tyrese, because she's got the hots for a little loving, it looks like. And then, of course, Rick and Lori and his son Carl. Glenn Glenn says he'll sleep in the bathroom, that he's no stranger to bathtubs. Slept in many of them in college. And Andrea, the one who everybody's kind of worried about, her sister had died a few chapters ago, was bitten and killed, Amy. Andrea has kind of been in this depression and hasn't really talked much to anybody. And she sleeping in a room with Dale, the older man. So the chapter ends shortly after that. Lori and Rick start having a little bit of conversation about, the baby and what they're going to do. Rick says, "Hey, listen, if we can secure this place, I got 8 months to basically go find a doctor and figure out how we can get this baby out. So don't worry about it. Everything will be fine." He's trying to reassure. Donna, the nosy one, comes walking in and says, "Hey, I found some extra blankets in our closet. There's one for everybody." She gives one to them. Then she goes and runs into Tyrese out in the hall and asks him to distribute a couple more of them. Kind of thanks him and welcomes him into the group. Says he's been a big help, and he says, "Hey, we were starving. If me and my daughter and her boyfriend hadn't found you guys, and you weren't so kind to us, we probably would have died out there." So there's a little exchange between them. And then Donna, who a few chapters ago, if you remember, she was kind of like calling Dale a sinner because he was letting Andrea and Amy sleep in the RV, and he would claim nothing was going on. She goes to open up the room to them, and you see them kind of hugging and kissing, and Andrea pulling her shirt off over her head. So apparently the grief has gotten to her, and she just wants to get banged, I guess. Because Dale appears to be like a retired guy, like maybe in his late 60s or 70 years old, something along those lines. So the chapter ends up shortly after that. Donna kind of says, "Okay, whatever," goes back into her room with her husband and says, "Hey, listen, I don't wish anybody any ill will. I'm just glad we found a place." And it seems like it's actually starting to warm up too. The snow's melting off the windows. And right about then is where the chapter ends. But the cool thing in the way it was done is there's these 3 panels in a row. And you can see from one of the outside windows, it says there's snow, dripping off the window. And in one panel, you can see a couple letters, almost like when some of them are revealed in Wheel of Fortune, right? And then in the next one, it says... And then, and anyway, it says, it winds up saying after the 3rd panel, it says, "All dead, do not enter." And it was actually kind of cool, I thought, the way it was done. And that's just how the chapter ends. So apparently, from what it says, they're going to get a little bit of a surprise tomorrow, especially if things do start warming up, because maybe some of this, this community, maybe that's why the gates were closed. Maybe, whatever, there's hundreds of these things trapped in there. I don't know. So it'll definitely be looking forward to the next one, Let me know what you guys think, brothers and sisters, in the comments down below. And then, of course, if you feel that I deserve it, feel free to give me a thumbs up, hit the like button, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will definitely look to see what happens, and we're eager to catch you in the next one, Nation. As always, thank you for watching, brothers and sisters. Be sure to subscribe and take a look at some of my other videos. Thanks. See you next time, Nation.